All right. Okay, well, let me first share a little bit of information about myself. I did not come from an academic background. I actually started out straight out of high school and went into the Navy. I couldn't decide what fields I wanted to study. After I got out of the Navy, I went and worked for General Motors for a bit. And then I started going to college. And I will say that's where I fell in love with the field of IT and I fell in love with STEM. That drove me to join Lockheed Martin. And then I took a brief stint and went out and did some .com work from an IT perspective. And then I came back into Lockheed Martin and began my IT journey in my IT field. So I've kind of progressed throughout my career and had a very strong IT base and then moved into the fields of security. So I did complete my undergrad degree at Regis University and I did my master's at UMUC in cybersecurity. I'm a huge advocate of STEM, really encouraging high school and younger students to pursue those studies. And then I think I also do a lot of support from a cyber patriot and FIRST perspective. And then outside of IT and the world of STEM, I absolutely love Disney. That's a little bit about me. So let me give you a quick overview of who I work for, which is Lockheed Martin. From a cyber perspective and from an employee population perspective, we have 105,000 employees located over 500 facilities through 70 countries. We manage 145,000 desktops. There is 92 million emails per week that traverse our gateways. We have about 8,500 programs, and we have 16,000 suppliers and 300 customers. We are a very large organization. So what does that mean from an IT perspective? That means we have a lot of data, a lot of traffic, and very, very busy environments. The big thing that I love to take away from this is that we do have a global footprint. That means we're located at so many different countries, so we are always on. It's very interesting. So what is it exactly that I do? So I'm a cyber governance manager. That probably doesn't tell you a lot. So you see then in the beginning, I have an IT and an engineering background, but I've decided to move over to cyber governance. And that means I provide cyber advice on like contracts, doing contract data protections. What terms and conditions can we put into contracts? And why is it so important? I also do supply chain cybersecurity. I help to make sure suppliers have a cyber secure posture and they can maintain and protect our information. I give advice on regulatory compliance and the requirements that are generated to us from the DoD and from commercial customers. I support audits, and I also help set corporate IT policy, and I do a lot of mentoring. So let me give you a basics of cyber. What is cybersecurity? It's all the tools and all the actions that we use to keep computers, networks, and information safe and available for those who need it. That means protecting hardware and data from everything from hacktivists to earthquakes to even employees who occasionally might dump some coffee into a computer. Why is this important? So from my perspective, the threats are ever evolving. We have a requirement to maintain the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of our systems and the information that they hold. There's increasingly unstable threats. So if you've heard from a cyber perspective, they'll talk about APTs and the bad guys. So an APT is an advanced persistent threat. These are folks who are backed by a lot of money, who have a goal to seek and to get our information. Whether it's from a DoD perspective or whether it's from stealing proprietary information or even stealing biochemical information, like how we're coming up with virus remedies. There are also broad-based criminals, people who are just out seeking to gain monetary advantages and being able to get small companies to pay a ransom. They could be an insider threat. They could be the professional hacktivist or the rogue actor. Surely, though, the thing that's the takeaway from this is that they continue to evolve. They continue to become more sophisticated, increase in frequency, and they're very much out after the aerospace and defense industry. So why is it important to think differently? So attackers, they think in graphs. So they know at the heart of everything is the corporate users. It's the corporate information. It's the information and the good details that they would like. And they think, what ways can I get in? Can I go through social media? Can I go through somebody's home computer who might be trying to access their corporate environment? Can I use a third-party supplier? Are there things available on the internet that I could do as well? All of those are possible. An attacker is always saying, what's the weakest link? Where can I hit? Users, on the other hand, just think it's IT. It's a system. Everything is a system. I just want to leverage it and just want to use it. An adversary, they're going to start knocking on every single door and try to find those opportunities. So why is it important? One of the cases that we like to reference is a case from RSA, security devices. So these are the little tokens that people might use in order to gain access to their work environment, their school environment. So known as multi-factor authentication. An attacker, they infiltrated the RSA network through malware. It was deployed through spoof emails that were sent to that company's employee. The criminal captured the algorithm used to generate these random security passwords. So they knew how these were being developed. Then they took that algorithm and they launched an attack on Lockheed Martin's networks using algorithms they stole from RSA. And then in the end, Lockheed Martin's security team, we were able to thwart that attack because we were aware of what was happening and we had very good defense. So a weakness is one person's system that's being exposed to by attackers to target another system. The answer is we're all connected. Well, it's not just the big companies that hackers love. They love small businesses too. So if we've been looking and we look according to the 2017 Verizon data breach investigation report, 61% of breaches hit small businesses. And that can be absolutely crushing to a small business. Bigger companies, we can probably defend against that. But a small company, it would stop them in their tracks and not allow them to be able to function and to earn money. Symantec research found that 43% of cyber attacks are lodged against small businesses. Hackers prey upon the weak. They love to get internal access. And small businesses have a lot of information and a lot of consumer information that they can offer to hacktivists. So why would an adversary be motivated and how do they attack? So we have some traditional intrusion vectors that we like to protect and make people aware of and defend against. So you've heard about email that's filled with malicious material or was able to compromise systems. That's still a very strong attack vector. Then we'll have data storage devices like USBs that might be insecure or have malware installed on them. You might find them out in parking lots. They might be sent to your home in an envelope, and you go and connect them into a system, and the malware is immediately installed. They could also be compromised websites that were probably not able to defend and keep the bad guys out, but they've gotten a hold of the website. You go to the website, and the malicious software is downloaded to your workstation whenever you get on that website. Another traditional intrusion vector is systems. Systems that are unpatched, meaning you've got to keep up with those Microsoft updates, are super important. Then the adversary is like, well, you've gotten very smart to those traditional intrusion vectors. We're going to move to some more modern intrusion vectors. We've seen folks become victim through social media, Facebook, LinkedIn. What about sending specific text to your mobile device? And then also our supply chain is also an intrusion vector. And then lastly, the cloud. It has definitely been a strength for companies where you're able to build a stronger IT environment quite quickly. However, the adversary is also using that as well. They no longer really need to procure systems. They can quickly move their bad sites, they're malware from one location to the next because it's very fast to spin up information in the cloud. Wow. So when you think about that and you saw everything that Lockheed Martin did, it really lets you know that this is a complex cyber ecosystem. Hard to think of like cyber and IT as being an ecosystem, but think about it. At the center of it is 8,500 Lockheed Martin programs. We share a lot of data with our supply chain. That's 16,000 suppliers all over the world. Then you have 300 customers that are interested in Lockheed Martin producing a product or information that they can use. They're trusting us with their data too. But then we're also sharing information with the intel entities. And then of course, there's the adversary or the APT. They're very smart. They know that we're out after that information. Alrighty, so I was sharing with you about the complex cyber ecosystem. The adversary knows the good information that we have and why it's so very important. They also know the information our supplier has. We do track the events and track what the adversary is out after and what they're seeking. On the lower right-hand side, you'll see our intrusion activity. How initially they first started going after the defense industrial base, that's the DIB, out after us as primes only. And then they realized we have a lot more funds, a lot more ability to put up defenses and protect our information. But then they went out and they realized our protections are much stronger, but our supply chain, maybe those moms and pop suppliers that are in small locations may not have the number of resources to protect and defend their environment. So they began attacking those folks and trying to get that good, juicy information from them that might be housed there. So when you think about all of that, you might be thinking, how in the world could you possibly protect all of that good information? And I'll add, what they're out after is not what you see in the movies. The classified information, the stuff that's stamped, they're really out after information that's unclassified. Because as you can see, there's probably a great deal of research that probably goes into developing products. And they can gain a lot of information by getting those details. So the DoD has come up with something called NIST implementation. It's DFARS, the Defense Federal Acquisition Regulation. This is the first reasonable step for a company personnel with knowledge to protect the information that's contained within their unclassified environments. So our recommendation is for folks who are looking to protect this information, read through the National Institute of Standards and Technology, their 800-171 special publication, examine the requirements and determine if it may require a change to those company policies, processes, and procedures, and how you protect that IT environment. This is how we've been able to advise our smaller businesses and our suppliers how to start protecting that information and how to strengthen up or shore up their IT posture. When folks go to look at that, you've got to provide them with a roadmap. So you can do that by saying, hey, these are the 14 control families or security control families that you would want to look to improve and really work on within your environment. Things like access control, awareness and training, teaching your employees that they should not be clicking on links that they don't know where they came from, or opening files when they get sent over and they're just not quite sure who they're from. Really maintain that configuration control. Make sure you're updating your systems. Just do those smart patching things that you should really do. And really start working on some of your physical protections, your personal security, and control your media that you put into your computers and your IT systems. Knowing all that, you're like, what makes a good IT and cyber candidate? They've got to be interested, curious, see adjacencies, build, create. Well, actually, you really don't have to have all of these. It can be any one of these things. That's the point of it. You can be interested in IT. You can be really curious and want to go build in the cloud. Maybe you're not a fan of individual workstations, but you absolutely love databases. There's a home for you in IT. It's a great career field. Maybe you like the big picture. You want to build huge systems IT systems that maybe deliver some wonderful end products, or maybe high performance computing because you want to solve some hard challenges of avionics. All of those would make a great field person within IT. Maybe you're detail orientated, or maybe you're just like, I really want to focus on this one very small detail. And that's good too. We need all those folks. Fast pace, slow pace, whatever pace, there's a job for you. The big important thing though that I always encourage folks that they need when they're pursuing a career in IT, teamwork is very, very important. Make sure that you're pulling those strengths from your teams, from your coworkers, so you can make sure you're building a solid environment, making it secure. The IT and cyber field is quite broad. There's a lot of folks, whether you're engineering, you're a policy setter, you're a policy maker, you want to make laws, there's a job for you in IT. What do we have from a Lockheed Martin perspective in the community? We actually have a lot of different opportunities, whether you're in high school or you're in college, or you're seeking a grant. We have an opportunity for that as well. So there's something called Lockheed Martin Cyber Quest. This year, because of COVID, we are taking it all virtual for high school students. That's where high school students could come in as a team and work to solve some hard cyber challenges and just compete with other teams across the globe. We also support Great Minds in STEM, Girls Inc., Project Lead the Way, Team America Rocketry Challenge, Engineers in the Classroom, First Robotics, and lastly, there is 2 scholarship opportunities that you can find on Lockheed Martin. One is for STEM and one is for vocational opportunities. Okay, that's all I have today.
Wonderful, thank you. So a couple of questions. From an educational perspective, how has going virtual been a security challenge?
We've honestly had a very strong virtual presence before. It's not been too incredibly challenging for us. From a technology perspective, we ensure folks have been assigned assets. What we've really struggled with, and which I've been really supportive from a manager perspective, is making sure my teams still feel connected and folks feel engaged and they're not too isolated. So from a technology perspective, it hasn't been that challenging for us.
Oh, do you have I don't know, you may or may not know, but in terms of, so with all the schools going virtual, and certainly they have a lot less resources they can put towards IT and security infrastructure. I don't know if you have, I guess, just that, any, I guess, comments, thoughts on that?
Yeah, from my perspective, I would say the biggest thing folks can do, no matter where you're at, update your computers. Keep your asset updated, keep things current. Take advantage of those Microsoft urgent patches. Don't become one of the victims when, you see things on the headlines and on the news that says, oh, 0 day, you must update. Please do that. Do it quickly.
Awesome, thank you. So another question. I got a text saying I had won an iPhone from Amazon Prime. If I don't click the link provided, am I okay? Or is it already weaseling its way into my info?
Nope, you're just fine. Just delete. Just don't click the link.
Okay. And then, so a couple more questions. So NIST was mentioned twice today. And I guess, can you explain a little bit more about what NIST does? Because they do some very interesting things.
Oh, I've got to say, I found them probably when I was doing my graduate degree, and I do sort of have like an educational crush on some of the folks who are over there. They're super smart. So from my perspective, what they do is they release a lot of good standards on how you need to protect your IT environment, how you need to patch your systems, how you need to keep things squared away from the IT front, but they do so much more. They're just filled with so many folks who are really studying, researching, and producing great information for professionals, for scientists, and just furthering our STEM world.
Rana, I don't know if you have anything, well, since you were there briefly.
Yeah, so as DJ just mentioned, it's the name implies what they do. They're the National Institute of Standards and Technology. So NIST puts forward any standards that are related to whether it's cybersecurity or standards of masses or standards of units. You probably heard about the cesium clock, which sets the standards on time. This is how we define what time is. But they also do a lot more. So part of the research that I talked about was done at NIST. Actually, I was a postdoc there and I still go there. They have huge user facilities, whether that is in materials research or fundamental physics, or even in terms of scattering facilities. So NIST has one of the oldest neutron scattering facilities in the country, which is funded by the Department of Commerce. So the stuff that I talked about in terms of neutron scattering is basically a unique feature of NIST that they offer as a user facility for people to get their samples in and measure them with neutrons.
Awesome, thank you. Oh, I've driven by their facility, and every time I wish I could just wander in. So DJ, a couple more questions. Can you I mean, I know I personally know that there's a lot of educational pathways to IT and cybersecurity. I didn't know if you could speak to any of those.
For me, I would say definitely when and this is one of the things I do support within middle and high school, if there's opportunities within the high school to start exploring or even give something a try, absolutely go do that. I would say also too, there's a lot of opportunities after school. So the Cyber Patriot program that I mentioned is typically a club that is formed at a school or even outside school, where the students would get the opportunity to learn about IT, to start building individual systems, to build virtual machines, to start learning how to protect and defend and keep the bad guys out and find opportunities that need to be remediated. So I would say for a high school student or even a college student, start stretching and putting yourself in somewhere that's uncomfortable, somewhere that you haven't been. You thought, I'm not sure if I see myself there. Go give it a try. You'll never know.
Awesome, thank you. And I just step out briefly, maybe you already covered this, but I was curious to know, how does Lockheed, and this is for lack of a better word, sort of research like novel cybersecurity threats? Because I know they're always trying to change their tactics, or, and I guess how do you guys research, keep up with, figure out what their next iteration is?
Yeah, so we actually, I didn't share this, but we have a computer incident response team, and we do a follow the sun model because the adversary never sleeps, and we like to say neither does cyber at Lockheed Martin. So we have a center that's located in Maryland, one that's in Denver. Then we have another set of team that's in Australia and another one that's in the UK. But the importance of having locations and so many different, or people in so many different locations as spots is that we do think of cybersecurity as a team sport. So that sounds kind of funny because you usually just think, oh, football, basketball, those are team sports. Well, so is cyber. So we collaborate very heavily with our industry partners, with our customers. We share the information back and forth that we might be seeing. And we also give our engineers shoulder room to kind of go and explore and keep up on very recent threats and go do some exploration initiatives.
I think that's all the questions we have. So thank you very much.